Stefano, ¿cómo está?
Sta bene. Okay, let's start, gentlemen. Okay.
Sure.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Steve Tabrizi. I'm the Chief Operating Officer with the Remax Hallmark Group of Company. It is my pleasure to have Walter Schneider and Ken McLachlan, two phenomenal and exceptional real estate industry leaders this morning at Remax Hallmark Real Talk. This is our first episode after the COVID-19. So before we start, I will give an introduction of the both gentlemen here that they giving us their valuable time, and we go through about 30 to 35 minute series of the question, and then you can post all your question on a YouTube chat, and we will try to address all your questions. So let's start with Walter. Walter Schneider, President and co-founder Remax Integra Group of Companies and Remax Europe. Walter was born and raised in Toronto, the product of the Austrian immigrants who came to Canada, started Remax with his business partner, Frank Polzer, in 1980 in Mississauga. Perhaps one of the worst time in Canadian history to start a business. In late 1979 and early 1980s, Canada experienced 12 unemployment, and the United States higher than the United States, and the Bank of Canada rate hit 21%. Remax Integra operates in 36 countries worldwide, including Canada, US, Europe, and the Middle East. An agent count of the 43,000 people, which counts nearly 1/3 of the entire Remax network. Walter has received numerous industry awards, including CEO of the Year by the Financial Post and Canada Business Person of the Year in 2017. He has been married for 33 years, has 3 children, 2 of them work with the Remax Integra, and the other works for TSN, and 1 grandchild. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
The next guest, our fierce leader, Kenneth McLachlan. Kenneth, if some of you don't know, president of the Remax Hallmark Group of Company. Kenneth McLachlan was born and raised in Hamilton, Ontario, the product of the immigrant family, English father and Sicilian mother. At the earliest stage of his life, due to his father's business being in fertilizing product, moved to Red Deer, Alberta, which he refers to as the center of universe. Interestingly, started his career in real estate in 1979, around the same time that the recession hit Canada. Joined Remax Hallmark in 1980, precisely Riverdale, Toronto, specifically Woodbine and Danforth area. He is the president of the Remax Hallmark Group of the company. Ken has been honored by Remax International as the International Broker of the Year. He's a past member of the Toronto Real Estate Board of the Director, and he's also a founding member of the Chairman Leadership Advisory Council, a Remax International Association of the top Remax broker worldwide, as well as being a business coach specializing as individual top producer and team leader, specifically coaching real estate broker owners in North America. Ken has spoken throughout Canada, United States, Bahamas, and Europe. Ken has 4 children, one of them which we all know, Michael McLachlan, work at Remax Hallmark, and he has 1 grandchild named Misha. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Boy, that's an old Bible. Thank you, Steve. I think there was a little typo on it. I sent you the wrong date. It's 1986 I joined Remax. At Remax Hallmark, there were 53 people.
Thank you for correcting. Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry.
But you came to the business in 1979 and Walter in 1980, so around the same time that basically the market was crazy. So I'm going to start with a broad question. I start with Walter.
Okay.
What do you see the biggest challenge for leaders in time of crisis?
Well, if you're a leader, you have to act. And I think sometimes you find that leaders will freeze. And so I think that you have to, have the courage to act. You cannot freeze. I mean, that's very important. You have to be compassionate. I think that you have to understand the problem is usually not as big as people to make it out to be. I think one of the big things in my leadership style and my way my brain worked, I don't know, I was granted that that gene pool was I compartmentalize things very quickly, and I go, not sometimes the easiest, but like what's the big challenge? Like typically when you have problems in business, there's a number of them that come into that box, and okay, where's the biggest one? Do we have to act right now? Put that over there. Let's get the easiest one out of the way. Let's move compartmentalize, break them down. And it's kind of like eating an elephant, right? To eat the elephant one at a time. Everybody wants instant solutions. In business, that doesn't happen that way. You have to sometimes some take time, some can be instantly resolved, but break it down and just be sequential in how you.
How about you, Ken?
You know what? There's not much different than what Walter said. You know what? I think the biggest thing, though, for me is that you have to deal with it. I mean, you have to step up and deal with it. And it's so easy just to not have to do that. But the position that I'm in, and other you are, and Deborah, and other people in our company, is that it's the path we chose, and we have to deal with it, and we step up and do it. And that's one of the things that, especially in this pandemic, I learned very strongly that was one of the things that we were best called upon to do, was actually deal with it. So what Walter said, plus a lot of the just step up and do something about it. And I've been fortunate all through my life, and all these different, and we all have crises, and I've had a lot of them, as everybody has, and that's what grows us, is that it's always been evolved by dealing with it at the time. And looking at it as a macro thing, not getting overwhelmed by the little details of things like that, but really taking the big picture in mind and having confidence to really grow with it at that. So dealing with it is big for me.
It can't just go away in its own.
No, I mean,
you gotta solve the problem, fix it. You know, it's kind of funny. We as humans, we'll go and we'll worry more about, you got a rattle in your front tire and you run off to the tire shop. But in business, sometimes people leave that alone. Poor leaders just leave it alone, and you just got to go deal with it, get it over with. You can't move forward unless you get rid of that thing. So, and I think in business, as a leader, you're always obligated to move your company, your enterprise, your business, whatever you're involved with, forward. You got to move it forward. You
always have to.
Yeah, and I've just, nothing stays. I've always said nothing stays static, and it's never the right time. Got to act, make a decision. And by the way, if you're right 51% of the time, you win. And
that's a good analogy.
And as a leader, you're not going to make the right decision every time, but you got to act. You can't procrastinate.
Yeah, and I also think you have to get your ego out of the way as well.
Absolutely.
It's not all about me. It's not all about it. It's about actually the people that you're working with, the situations you are that, and you really have to, of course, look at it macroly, but you have to break it down to what. I always have this thing in my head that what's the worst thing that can happen. And I deal with that. I have come to terms with it, And another saying I have is that now that I've attracted this into my life, what am I going to do about it? So it puts the action back onto me and really gets me out of that stunned mode of having a crisis, and it gets me into evolving and doing things. So,
well, guys like Ken and I and you, Steve, we've chosen a position. It wasn't like anointed you and said, here you go. We chose to start a business. We chose to end a business. We chose to take on leases. We chose to travel for our business. We chose. When you make those decisions, they come with responsibility.
Consequence.
And so, if you just want to, if you want to be a coupon clipper, go buy bonds and sit in your backyard and grow tulips and, whatever. And so this is, and it's funny, as Ken will tell you, I mean, we're kind of the same vintage, you and I. You become seasoned. I think that the things that maybe rattle you or cause you not lose sleep in your 30s don't even show up on the radar screen by the time you're 50. And
you've been there.
Yeah, by the time you hit our vintage, we go, oh yeah, okay, this one, okay.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
Well, I like the word. I like the way that you refer it to vintage. So it brings me to actually the next question. I mean, leaders are people. Everybody outside of the spectrum looking at you two. Some people have this notion. Oh my God, you know what? They are set. They are financially secured. Doesn't this pandemic or any crisis, does it really hit them? Do they have a struggle? Do they have a stress? Do they have the financial uncertainty? And I know in the last 40 years, you guys went through 80s crisis, you went through early 90s crisis, you went to 2008 crisis, particularly Walter, for somebody like you who operate pretty much in entire North America, Europe, and it really 2008 hit it really hard. But each of you, perhaps starting with you, Walter, can you share what really in the last 40 years pivoted you? One thing that really fundamentally stayed with you and really refined you as who you are today and becoming a very strong leader through this crisis?
Well, I think there's two pathways, Steve. I think there's the what I call the business pathway, and there's the personal pathway, right? And so on the business pathway, you're up in life. You become you're the cumulative total of all your experiences that you run through, whether it's tragedies, whether it's business crisis, whether it's people you deal with, people you hang around with. I mean, one of the things I've always done, come around to answering this, one of the things I've always tried to do is get myself out of this particular space. I learn a lot from non-Remax people on four boards. I have investments in other companies. I'm a real student of business. So I might look at somebody in the food services business and say, geez, how are they responding to this kind of a problem? Or how are they building out a team here? So there's the business side. And then to the one challenge that you asked the question, one challenge for me personally was when I was diagnosed with prostate cancer in 2009. And you sit there and you walk into a room and you're all cocky, and I'm very public about it. And fortunately, I was blessed with a beautiful surgeon. Somebody up top is watching for me. And I had a bit of a spike in the PSA count. So my doctor said, let's just go check this out. And I was really cavalier about it. Oh yeah, I can check it out. I'm going to catch a plane to Florida this afternoon. Everything's good. And then you walk into a room, and Kenny will probably share some stories in that space too. And you walk into a room, and the guy says, boom, cancer. Yeah. And you sit there and you cockiness suddenly goes away. And it's an instantaneous, you get to figure out. And then out of that, I can tell you the day, it was October the 14th, 2009 that I was diagnosed. And, I had my surgery December the 3rd, 2009. And 6 weeks later, I was playing hockey. So you go through an experience like that and you start to understand your own mortality, and that you start to really prioritize. You come out of that and you prioritize what's important and what's not. And suddenly the things that really rattled or disturbed you, or you go, it's not all that important. Or I can solve it. So you become grateful. You become very grateful for every day, your children, your spouse, the friends, what you do for a living. And so that was for me certainly one thing that changed a lot of things, how I lived life, how my attitude was to certain things, the things that would impact me and not impact me. And then, you have the business stuff that comes and goes, crazy person to deal with, and then, financial crisis. That's sort of long. But,
Ken, what about you?
Well, Walter referenced it a bit. And for me, it was the same thing. I had kidney cancer, tumor. And it was just that it was surreal. It was, I'll back it up a bit. I've always believed, and I still do today, that nothing bad is going to happen to me. It's always going to work out. It's going to be fine. It's going to be, I don't know what it is, but it's always going to be what I want it to be. And so when I was faced with that, it was just, I kind of figured out it'd be okay. I think because I always believed it, you can't give me this bad news that isn't going to work out right for me. And I went along and I had this done, and kidney cancer. I had to have part of my kidney operated and taken out. So that to me was a wake-up call. That to me was an idea that of gratitude and for my health and for the way I'm being and my life like that. So that changed me that way. And business was really, I think the biggest thing with me, and I'm not sure what your question was, Steve, but I'll just pivot on what we were talking about, was when I started not trying to be in control of everything. When I started being less in control of my clients, less in control of everything, and I really focused on only one thing in my life that I could control, which were my actions and my thoughts. And so once I focused on my actions and my thoughts and my well-being, I just did that, and whatever happened, happened. And so all my life have been really central on doing the best I can for that day, whatever that, and today might be better than yesterday or tomorrow. Every day isn't the same. So once I stopped trying to control what other people's decisions they're making, I got less attached to it, less worried about it, less, impacted by it. So that was a really big shift in my real estate business as a real estate agent. Was I didn't get disappointed as much. I didn't get caught up in the cycles of the business, the highs and lows, because I knew if I did the work, I just focused on doing the work, the results would come. And for a business owner, it was the same thing. I just translated that into maybe a bigger scale of really just knowing that if I did the work and I would treated people right, my good friend Chris Clark says to me, good things happen to good people. And you do the best you can for people. And that's the actions that I've always tried to live by. And the results happen, whatever they are, they are. But those impacts of being, when I made the decision that I really wanted just to focus on my actions and my own beliefs and quit worrying about what other people said or did or didn't do, it was much better for me. Now, I slip back and forth once in a while. I know that. But.
Ken touches on a great point here. And I think when we talk about leaders, look, Ken's a highly driven guy. I'm a highly driven guy. We're both highly driven, goal-centered. We're clear about where we want to take our companies and so forth. But what you learn, process like what him and I both went through, different issues, but same space, you get this compassion and caring, and you get this sensitivity that you learn. And, you get these hard-driven leaders. Let me tell you something, a great leader, unless he or she has balance in terms of what they are as a person, in terms of the life-work balance, you get these what I call psychotic-driven leaders. And I've been around them, but what they are is empty. They're personally empty. And what happens is you cannot be a compassionate, caring leader unless you have this whole package, the understanding that everybody's different, everybody has different needs and wants, and you got to be compassionate for that and caring for that. And you also can call people out, and I'm with Ken, the same sort of thing. I when I went through my journey, my cancer journey, I just focused on, hey, what I need to do. I talked to these great surgeons. Here's my checklist of things I'm going to have to do. Says I got myself so physically, I was in the best shape of my life when I went on that OR.
Yeah, I was too. Yeah.
And I was, I worked out, and that's why my recovery was so great. I prepared myself for that particular process. Faith is a big part of it too. That's part of our lives. Both Kenny and I share that privately, and so you cannot be an empty leader, an emotionally empty leader. You will not be an effective.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think you have to have cancer to have that crisis in your life either. So
I agree.
That happened to be our thing, one of the things, and there are a lot of them out there. But I think I think how you are being really matters in life in the big scheme of things. It's not what you have or what you achieve or what you always say, Walter, that you're just renting the stuff anyway. You don't own it, right?
That's right.
That's the truth. That stings with me, or sits with me a lot. This is just a journey. How am I being in that journey? And what am I being the best I can be? Am I being the best I can be for my company, my partners, my agents, my family, all that stuff like that? And that's
all of us, you guys at Hallmark, us here at Integra, we have custodial responsibilities. And we are, we're custodians, for lack of a better term. You guys with your 9+ offices and your 500+ salespeople, us with our network. People count on you. People count on how you behave. They count on how you act. They count on how you conduct yourself. They count on what your value systems are. You can't mail that in, and you have to, you got to live a congruent life. And and it's all these boxes you got to pick. And you learn that with time. It's a funny thing, I've really discovered something, and I'll just digress for a moment. We all have benchmarks that we relate to. Ken and I being same vintage, the most significant early child memory that I have is the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
Yeah, big time.
Because it's interesting. I asked my daughter a few weeks ago, and I said to her, what's the most significant, she's 31. I asked her, I said, what's the most significant memory you have? She says, Dad, 9/11. Mm-hmm. And that's a benchmark. I asked you, Steve, I said, when we did our phone call 10 days ago, I said, what's the most significant memory you have? I think you said you were born in 1966. You said,
correct.
The Tehran hostage crisis when Iran, you said that to me when you were a little boy there. I asked Kurt Lucas earlier today in Vienna, I said, what's your significant memory? Here's a guy that was raised in Vienna, our Austrian, he's our managing director for Europe. He told me that he's 40. Says when the wall to East Berlin came down.
Wow.
So we wouldn't even think of that as North Americans here because it doesn't in our places. Yeah, he remembered that as being, he was 11 years old when that happened, the reunification of Germany. So my point is that we all have these starting points and they really impact us. And then from there, we kind of move on, right? And so, Ken and I, we know about Kennedy assassination. That means nothing to you, Steve, because you were born in '66.
I remember the moment. I remember the exact moment. I asked your partner, Frank Polzer, that same question. You know what he said to me? As a boy in Vienna during the war, the bombs coming in.
Right.
That was his memory of everything there. And that's significant. That's big. Imagine that and living through.
Well, exactly. And what we're going through right now, like for us, Ken and I have lived through 4 or 5 real estate recessions, with different times. You cited that at the beginning, and it's all significant for us. But someone born in 1991, who's one of our agents out here at Hallmark right now, where I think probably at least a quarter of your company is under 35. What does the Iraq War in 1991 mean to them? Nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So we can tell you about all the recessions we went through and the interest rates and the 30% drop in real estate prices. And right now, everybody's going through this pandemic with, Corona, COVID-19. And one thing, this too shall pass. We'll have a new normalization. Going to be fine. Exactly what it looks like, neither Ken nor I or Steve or Deb have a crystal ball, but we kind of know, because we know the fundamentals of real estate are there. Demand for ownership, interest rates are low, we don't have enough listings, we're not putting enough product in the marketplace. We're going to be fine. And I do believe that we'll come out of this. We're going to get into the real estate question a little bit, but realtors are an incredible breed. We all come to this business from somewhere else. So we're teachers and factory workers and salespeople and waiters and service providers and hospitality. We all come into this business from somewhere else, right? And we come into this place and we come here because we want freedom of choice. We want vacation. We want to be able to run. We're sprinters. Realtors are sprinters. And what makes this particular time challenging for people is that life is a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, and if you look at one of the family traditions in our house every year is to watch the Kentucky Derby. And if anybody's ever watched the Kentucky Derby, I parallel this sometimes with the realtor community, because we're all these horses that want to run, right? And we all, just because we're sprinters, we want to run. They put them all into gate 1 and 2 and 3, and the horse number 15 is the most jittery because he wants to run and he can't get into his gate, right? They finally drag him into his gate. You see the cameras there, and there's a guy, and he's they're off, and the guy pushes the button, right, to open the gates. The gates aren't opening. And that's what we're going through right now, is that we want to run. The horses
That's a great analogy. Yeah.
You know what? They want to run, but that button they can't open the gate. And so we're wired as realtors to run. And so this is for us right now as much psychologically challenging as it is logically.
Mm-hmm.
Understand that, because we have this natural temperament. So, it's just what we're going through right now. And I'm obviously, I don't see anything, Steve. I don't see this as a recession. I see this as a disruption.
Yeah.
So it brings me actually to the next question, since we start talking about the COVID-19. Every crisis obviously brings a certain degree of the uncertainty and a reaction, as you just described it with the Derby. So how do you compare the uncertainty of the COVID-19 compared to the other crises that you two been through?
I'll tell you this one. I've been through, as Walter was saying, 3 or 4 recessions, different things, 21% interest rates. This one, frankly, was scary. The first week or 2 into this, we've never been in a pandemic. I've said this many times. And all of a sudden we had this, somebody turned the lights off. It was done that day. We had to go and lay off 150 employees, which tore me apart. I've never done that in my life. And I wasn't equipped to do that. I'm equipped to build, not to tear down. And that was tough. And all of a sudden it was scary. It was really, what are we going to do? We met, Steve and I, and talked to other people and Deb and all this and our great leadership team. And the first week or so was a scary thing. And we embraced that, being scared. We were frightened. And then we said, okay, now that we've attracted this into our life, there's this acceptance that we got. We accept it. This is the reality. And then once we had the acceptance, we said, okay, how are we going to adapt? What are we going to do? That's the phase we're in right now. And then reboot down the road and that type of thing. So we're way into reboot now, but we had to have that period of mourning for the lights going out. And we did that and we embraced it. We embraced mourning and scared. And now that I'm scared, what am I going to do? Okay, that's fine. I have to do something. I can't just sit there. Right? We couldn't just journal on the whole thing. So it's been a great big process and a really interesting process. I've been journaling about it. I'm going to go back and read what I've written through each segment of what I've done. But I'm going to tell you something which may sound really weird. I'm in a small sense that I'm embraced this COVID-19 crisis because it's really changed who I am personally in my life. And I certainly don't want bad things on anybody in life and businesses and all that great stuff, but it's allowed me to evolve as a father, as a partner, as a friend, as a business leader. And we're going to have our company evolve with it too. So it's really given us great opportunity to create magic within that. So that's how I embrace it now. And
yeah, well, I look at it as, you know, as I said to you on the phone, Steve, we're safe and healthy and alive. That's a win. Now we got to react. So that's the win. That's the big win right there. Now we got to go and deal with these challenges, you know.
Is Walter froze?
10 years ago.
Yeah.
Did I freeze?
Yeah, you freeze a little bit, so that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. No, I said, you know, my friend Brian Feeney, and, you know, years ago, he had his house burned down in one of those California fires. I mean, you know, he went to the office one day and a brush fire went through. So that was instant, right? So, you know, and he lost a lifetime of memories, kids' photos, and all those kinds of things that can't be replaced. And, you know, he lived in a hotel for a while. You know, it wasn't financial, but it certainly was emotional, you know, all these things that you build up in a lifetime. So I look at all of this and say, it's something like we've never faced before, but we're safe and healthy. Let's be grateful for that. We live in an incredible country. I'm glad we're dealing with this here and not in some place like South America or the Africa, where the hospital facilities aren't there to take care of these people. You know, we may have a humanitarian crisis down the road, but in terms of us on a micro level in our real estate business, Toronto, Southern Ontario for that matter, you guys operate basically in the GTA for most part of your businesses, except for Barrie and such. I mean, this is one of the premier world destinations for real estate. Premier. Yeah. This ain't Cleveland or Cincinnati or St. Louis or Kansas City or Milwaukee. We do business in all those places, and trust me, I'd rather have my business here, you know, than some of those other places I just mentioned. So we're in a great spot. The demand is great. Look, we need 55,000 units to be built every year in the GTA just to meet demand. We were on track this year for 45,000 units. There's a 15 to 20% reduction because of construction delays now and COVID and all that stuff. We're going to come in at 36, 38,000. Our biggest challenge for the next 18 months, you're going to think I'm crazy. Our biggest challenge is inventory. Our biggest challenge is going to be product. And as this loosens up, and you got two dynamics, we're not building enough. And the flip side of it is some people are reluctant to put it to market. It's not that their need to sell isn't there. They want to sell, but there's that reluctance. We're going to have to become, as realtors, we're going to become part therapists and transition people. It's okay, Mr. Smith. I'll show you how we can sell your house. We're going to make sure you're safe. We're only going to do it on these terms and conditions. This is how it's going to happen. And here's what's going to happen. The realtor that is not sensitive on a going forward basis and caring about his customers' needs and wants and dealing with those insecurities is going to fall by the wayside.
Yeah, absolutely. They're gone.
They're going to be cannon fodder in this process.
Yeah.
And we talked about, you know, cleaning up the real estate business. There's 55,000 licenses in the GTA on the real estate board. You know what? And this is going to be like a self-cleansing of that stuff on the bottom.
Agree.
It's come out. And us pros at Remax, us guys and gals that are the real hitters and the movers and shakers in this business, we're going to lead that charge. We got to lead the charge. This, you know, here's the biggest challenge for a realtor right now in my mind. And that is, you know, if someone would have told you in January, oh, by the way, you got April off. What?
April, May.
Yeah, we're going to shut down for April. We're going to shut down. What do you mean? What do you mean? We're going to shut down. We're not going to be around, and we're not going to have any listings, and we're not going to open houses. We're not going to have none of that stuff. It's just like, we're shut down. What are you going to do with that month, Steve? What do you mean? If I had a month off, I'd go to the gym. I'd do all these kinds of things. La, 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 la. And suddenly we've been given a month off. And so the real question for the network and everybody is, and I'll pose this one is, are you ready? Because this is the time to get ready. And this is kind of like a sports team. For the Leafs, Ken and I are big Leafs fans and Raptor fans. And you probably don't even know what hockey was back in Persia there, Steve.
No. We had hockey. We had hockey.
But when a team, traditionally when the hockey season starts in October, they go to a training camp in September the 1st, and they train. They get ready. But they've been training all summer anyhow. But they really start getting ready in September. What are they training for? Well, they're training to be fit. They're training about playmaking. They're training about the team that has a new goalie, the team that has a bigger defenseman, all the teams they're going to be playing in their division. They're calculating and strategizing against that. And so every realtor here, most realtors make their living within a 3 to 5 kilometer farm area. That's what most make. That's the bulk of it. Maybe 70-80% of their living is done in a particular farm area. So my question is, how are you positioning yourself to be ready in that market? How are you positioning yourself to make yourself dominant, own it, that it's all yours? And, you are in training camp right now. And I've said this in many of these Zoom calls that I've done, is that we are going to be doing 12 months of business in 6 to 7 months.
Yeah.
And so that pent-up demand starts to go.
So, yeah, we've always talked, Steve, about the next 100 days. Start preparing for the first 100 days of this thing starting to ease up, and which it is doing now. So you have to be in that process. What am I going to do for the next 100 days? How am I going to ramp this thing up? How am I going to do the best I can, take opportunities from my clients, from people that are out there? And the other thing we always tell people to do, and we help them do, I think, is that, this investment that your clients have, that's the biggest investment in their life. And they need us out there right now to talk to them, to communicate with them, and make a difference in their lives. So it's a really good conversation to have with people going forward on it. And next 100 days are critical for people in our business.
Absolutely right.
So it brings me to the next question. You both lead 2 large companies, and obviously you wake up every morning and you basically say, you know what, I put my entire life into this business, 40 years, each of you. And you got to live many lives in your companies depend on your decision. But I'm sure every day when you wake up, there is that big elephant in the room. And this is the question now many of our agents, as I call them, as a small business owner, or many of our teams, that they basically, that agent on the individual basis or a team leader they have. How do you lead without having the answers every day, without knowing the answer every day, without having that big elephant in the room? And Walter, you probably on a mega scale, and Ken probably on the smaller scale. I'm sure you are getting calls every day. You are getting calls from Europe, 4 states in US. Ken is getting calls from almost 1,700 agents. How do I move forward? What is the best answer for this or that?
Well, there's no substitute for experience. And, an interesting thing was I went through my personal journey. I started Remax when I was 26 years old. And clearly, at 26, I'd have been prepared to do what I do today with all these years of experience. So I had this 4 decades of experience across global markets and so forth. Experience is certainly one thing. And I think that you have to, the things that stressed me out, I said earlier, at my 30s, don't stress me out today. And that just comes with time. I just don't know how to, translate that to great value of experience. I get up Steve, I get up every day and I say, first of all, I'm grateful for what I've been able to do and grateful to be able to do what I do in the place that I do it, people that I do it with, in the country that I do it in the dynamic that I do it in. I just am grateful every day. It's really, this is, for people, we've been very successful regional operators. What people don't talk about is the 145 regional operators that never made it in North America. And there were lots of guys. I would go to you guys as broker owners would go to the table and say, who's that new guy? I would go to regional meetings in the States and say, oh, that's in Carolina. I didn't see him before. And then 2 months later, I go, who's the new guy from the Carolina? So we had that same cycle, just different names, except they could be more invisible than. So I don't, I get up, I'm grateful. I start my day always. So what's my role today? First of all, is my family safe? Are they safe? Are they good? Okay, now let's go work with the business. And you're dealing with a lot of fear. People have a lot of fear, and I think guys like Ken and I, and you and Steve and Deb, people come to us and they come to us for support, and that comes with the territory. Look, my mother was an immigrant that came to Canada in 1948. And Steve, I shared this story with you. She was 21 years old. She was orphaned before the war. She landed in Halifax, took a train to Beausejour, Manitoba, was a domestic in Beausejour, Manitoba. Fortunately for her, she got taken in by a nice family, couldn't speak English, had no money, had no cell phone, had no way to call relatives, had no way to get back. She just landed there in December 1948 and went to work. She went to work so she could eat, maybe make a little bit of money and be safe. What drove her away from Europe was the war and the fear of war again, and 21 years old and hope to make it. My dad comes to 50 and they get married and so forth. They got shot at, bombed at, starvation, rationed. You know what? We're doing okay here. We're doing okay. We got warm beds, warm showers, a car in the driveway, not getting shot at, not getting bombed at. I gotta go to work. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to cavalier about it. This is really serious. People are dying. This is really serious. People are sick. But, the most will recover. We're going to be okay. And we got to go to work. And we're going to have to work in a new reality for a while. And then when we come out of this, we'll be fine again. Here's the 3 businesses that are going to be fine in coming out of this. Real estate business, because there's global demand for our product. It's not going to go away. It's a safe haven for investors. Second one's going to be pharmaceutical. Pharmaceutical business is a great business. But the problem with the pharmaceutical business, ladies and gentlemen, is that 90% of the pharmaceuticals that we consume in Canada, the United States,
China,
are made in China. 90%. And we're gonna get rid of that self-dependency, that dependency to that. We're gonna have a deglobalization of that type of an industry. And the thyroid drug that you got to take, or the cancer drug, or whatever you're going to take, they're going to be made in places like Brampton and Markham and Toronto. They're going to be made. And the third one's going to be high tech. I know we had this project that just got stopped in the Docklands there by Google. But you know what? That's just temporary. That'll come back. Toronto's the second major center for AI in North America. Google loves being here. All the companies love being here. We've got incredible talent here. We're so lucky. This greater GTA area here, 6.5 million people, it's a global destination, and investors are going to come back in the real estate business in a big way, because everybody who was in the stock market got the crap kicked out of themselves in the last 90 days, 35% drop, and every piece of real estate's held with value. And so we're in a great place. But so that's a long answer to the elephant. Sorry, Steve. That's a really long answer.
Kenny, how about you? How you wake up every morning and you have that uncertainty and the elephant in the room, and I'm sure you don't show it. You get a lot of questions on a daily basis. And how do you deal with it?
I have a lot of great people in my life, you included, Deb included, our team, our region. We're blessed. We have these people. I don't have to do it all alone. I'm not just me. I have to take that on. So I'm that guy that has a lot of things I can't do. That are a lot of people in my life that can do it. So, and I don't get worked up. Me, Steve and Walter, me as well, is that I'm not a drama guy. I don't really let people most times get into my head, about that. I'm really blessed that I wake up and I'm a morning guy. Like, I'm really happy to be, engaged in what we're doing. I like doing what I'm doing. I enjoy it. It's not about money. Money is important to life, but it's not why we're doing it. It's just, there's a gratification in doing it. There's a joy in making a difference in people's lives. There's stuff that we are capable of doing that, because of what we're doing this, allows me and us to help somebody in Lesotho, Africa, which is big to me. People that need our help that can't do it, that are dying. And so that's what I love every day, to get up to and see what's the opportunity. What are we going to do? How can we evolve today? How can we do different today than we did yesterday? How can we grow in one way or another? Because I know that if I stand still, I'm dangerous and I'm going to die. Okay. I can't just sit here and not do anything, be stagnant. That is, to me, is the most critical. That's the the cancer of a company is to be stagnant. You have to evolve somehow. And it's the cancer of a real estate agent. If you're just doing the same stuff you did 20 years ago, you're not going to be in this business. If you're not evolving out of this pandemic to create new opportunities, create new ways of doing business, you're going to be left behind. There's no question about that. If you're not starting to do better habits now in this pandemic as an agent, you're going to be left behind. And that's what that excites me, to have to do that evolution and things like that. So
you just touched on changes, and Walter also just touched about the Greater Toronto area, how blessed we are. We live in an amazing city. And I'd like to now expand it a little bit to perhaps our beautiful country, our beautiful province, Ontario. How both of you see the changes that were forced upon us through this pandemic? For years, agents, one thing that I do believe, which is I'm very happy about this pandemic, I should not call it happy. I think the pandemic really reinforced that the need of the human interaction and expertise of an agent. A few years ago, everybody was talking about the machine will replace the agent. I never believed it. I don't believe it right now. But what I see now through the pandemic and the changes, how the human interaction can be embraced by technology. So my question is twofold. The first, what do you see the changes that the realtor, the buyers, the sellers, that you would recommend to them to take? And where do you see the market, perhaps more importantly, in Ontario? Is it going to be really focused more on a still central Toronto or GTA? Or do you see the urban center for the opportunities, as you mentioned, Walter, pharmaceutical? I think the manufacturer, I do believe it exactly, deglobalization will bring it to the Ontario. Do you see other urban centers such as Ottawa, such as Barrie's, are going to be really the next game in real estate? Both of you, this question.
Go ahead, Walt.
Well, I see a whole bunch of things, really. I mean, the demand for real estate continues, so I have no concern about that. Realtor needs to be, the realtor, this is proven the realtor cannot be replaced. That there's no something come over the mountain. If not, I mean, if technology could have sold real estate, we wouldn't have any downturn in the real estate market right now. So we've seen, so the realtor, he or she is central to the transaction. He brings together, buyer and seller price points. So that doesn't change. The realtor needs to embrace technology. I agree with that. The realtor needs to be more full service conscious. I do see that a lot of people are going to learn out of this and say, you know what, I'm going to work a little different. Proven that, like, for instance, my career, I have traveled around the world. I've got 2 million miles in Air Canada. I've traveled, I think a lot of this stuff is going to reduce my need to travel, like the Zoom kind of meetings. I think for me personally, I think people are going to find, they're going to say, you know what, I'm going to move to Bracebridge. It's beyond Barrie. They're going to move to Bracebridge and Peterborough and Brantford because I can get a really nice house there for $300,000-400,000. And I can sell my house in Markham for $800,000, and I'm going to move up there. I'm going to telecommute, and I think the Airbnb business is in trouble. If I was a realtor right now, I've been saying this in all my Zoom calls. Hotels are going to come back flying out of this thing, making their rooms super safe, sanitized, blah blah blah. What are they going to use? There's huge opportunity. If I was a realtor right now, I'd be knocking on anybody that I know has an Airbnb, because guess most of those deals are mom and pops. They don't have to get out, and they're leveraged, most of them. So there's the opportunities for investors to buy that stuff. I think we're going to have big investment in Southern Ontario and infrastructure, transportation. That's going to cause us going to the Bellevilles. And some people are going to say, you know what? I've had it with living on the beach. I've had it living in, Riverdale. I want a little quieter. You're going to get your places like in Prince Edward County. More people there. They're going to go down Niagara. And so, but the demand for ownership, great. And I tell you another thing. I said this for years, and Kenny, you say this. I think anything waterfront in Southern Ontario is going to be huge premium. Cottages, or where you guys and Deb got your place. There's going to be big demand for that. People say, multi-coats. I'm going to go up to safe, predictable. So you're going to see those kind of patterns changing. That's my opinion.
Kenny?
Yeah, I think it's ideal for that as well. It's going to spread itself out more, and more people are going to work from home. And I don't actually, Steve, you're the numbers guy. You know what's going on down there. You know what the numbers are in the focus of doing out there. So I'm going to leave that to you to answer on that. But I think that really agents there's a big demand from the public, I believe, and I firmly believe this, is that, if we are concerned about the private market or different things doing it, they can't compete with an agent that is knowledgeable, up to speed, and providing exceptional, and I mean exceptional service for their clients. And we have to step it up as agents now to provide that exceptional service. We have to learn new skills, new habits, and new opportunities will exist when we do that. So I think there's a great opportunity for us to do that and step aside other people right now that aren't really getting in the game. Because I'm telling you, if you're not evolving during this, you're going to be left behind. And I think there's a great opportunity for us not to be left behind, all agents.
Great. So far, just gentlemen, I want to let you know we have almost over 200 people are viewing your talk.
We have a big family.
We have a big family, and questions are coming, which I will read them to you. My last question before we jump into question, what's your biggest advice for any realtor coming out of the COVID-19 in general, how to practice their business, what to do, what they should do? What would you recommend? What would you give them, your 40 years of the valuable experience that is hard to...
Well, let me go first because I want to hear Walter's at the end. I want him to close this. I think for us as a company, what really has driven us is that we actually think like realtors. We were realtors. We started out in this business as realtors. We didn't, not that you shouldn't do it other ways, but I've been thinking as a realtor since when I was 28 years old, doing it, 1979. And so I know what a realtor, I believe, thinks like. I know what a realtor, the problems realtors go through, the different struggles and things like that. So every day I think like a realtor, and I want to be a problem solver. I want to create opportunities for realtors like that. And I think what a realtor has to do really to get in touch with this, to learn from this COVID, is start thinking like a client. What's important to a client? So we think like a realtor. An agent needs to think what's important for a client and provide that service for them. I think that's the biggest thing now, that get out of the way, think of what's important for your clients, and go from there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I second all that. I mean, I'm sort of the mindset. We're so lucky in this real estate business. I know so many people in businesses, like I own 11 hotels. And
yeah, you told me.
Yeah, he's got an anchor business. Right now, 90% of his rooms every night are empty.
Yeah.
All those costs, taxes, insurance, utilities, heating, security, blah, 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 right? So we are not an anchor business. And the beautiful part about what we do as in our community is business, and that Hallmark's not an anchor business either. So what we've got as an agent is that you're very nimble. And the great part about being a realtor, that you have all this time. That part of being a realtor is you have all this time. And so it's how do you use that time? How do you use it most effectively? Here's what you can do. Each and every one of you can control activity.
Yeah.
You can be engaged in activity, and you can control your outbound activity. If you are not, in very simplest of terms, you have very low overhead to operate. Here's the very simplest of terms. If you are not engaged outbound, you are not working.
You're out of business.
Out of business. So I'd be calling everyone, and here's the balance that you have to have right now. This balance between caring and listening and not appearing mercenary, but planting your service as future value for someone later. It's this really nice little balance that you've got to do. Yeah. And, and I give simple examples. Like, most of your clients are homeowners or property owners. You know what? And when you're a property owner, something always breaks. The dishwasher, the stove, the furnace, an eaves trough leaking, whatever. If that person that says, hey, you know what? I know a guy that serves eaves troughs. I know a guy that'll come in your house, be COVID safety, and he'll fix your dishwasher. Can I call him for you? And just be that custodian, that ambassador in the community right now, because guess what? They might not be a client of yours, but they're going to speak highly of you to their neighbor 2 doors down. You're going to get that listing later on. Yeah. So you're planting right now. You're planting these seeds out in the field, and you're hoeing them, and they're gonna harvest for you later this year. The problem with a lot of Kenny, I've spoken to Hallmark before. The problem with a lot of realtors is they're next transaction centric. You've heard me say this time and time again. You've got to think about next 20 transactions, not the next one. And there was this gal that took great care of me. She's a dear friend of mine. She passed away. Her name was Bev Jones, and she
Mhm.
passed away in March. The Titan Remax person. She was magical. She sold me many, many properties, sold all my kids their houses. And
Great.
it was a wonderful woman. I miss her said dearly. She's unbelievable. She died suddenly. And, you know, Bev had this great, great ability, me, that she was a great reader of body language. Walk me through a property, and she wouldn't even look at the property. She'd watch me. I could just tell she's watching how am I reacting, right? And then we'd walk out of the property and she'd look at me. She says, "You know, Walter, I don't think this is for you. We can," and this is her line every time, that we can do better for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was an amazing, and she diffused the situation. She took away the awkwardness. And I was a loyal customer for Bev for 10, 12 years. And so, you know, think about that every time you work with a client. We can do better for you.
Yep.
You're going to build loyalty for life.
That's exactly what it is.
I love basically your conclusion. I'm going to recap and read it. You know, Ken started by understanding your client's need, and Walter, stop thinking about your being a next transaction centric and control your outbound activity. I think that's phenomenal advice. I'm going to start reading questions. So a question for Walter. Sean Tasse, he's an agent from Ottawa at our Bronson location. Can you share your thoughts on Ottawa real estate in general, Walter?
Ottawa is one of those micro markets, of course. It's protected by the government. It's always going to have activity. It's a very stable real estate market. I think Ottawa is going to be healthy. You know, it's never going to have those great spikes. It's never going to have the great lows, which makes it a wonderful real estate market to work in. You know, hockey team isn't the best, but I shouldn't say.
You'll have to say
that. You know, I have to say my son-in-law was an Ottawa Senators fan before he married my daughter, and I told him it was one of the conditions of marrying my daughter. Get rid of that. But no, and all, you know, humor here. Ottawa's gonna be fine. All of Southern Ontario is gonna be fine, and you know, you got all those other communities around Ottawa, Carleton Place, up and down the Ottawa River. I mean, these are all going to be attractive places. Look, Canada needs immigration. We're going to have this little ball now in immigration, but we need, you know, we've been getting what, 250, 300 a year. You know, the United States is the only country in the world that can grow organically. It can actually shut its borders and grow organically. And Canada's going to keep on getting immigration. Ottawa's going to be one of those destinations, be well served.
Next question from Shani Gurin, from both of you. What are some of their best piece of advice or activities that they can do to stay positive daily? So what's your best advice for an agent in terms of being specific on activities on a daily basis so they can stay positive? Who wants to start? Maybe I turn it. How you two keep yourself positive and motivated every day as the two CEOs?
I have people that tell me I'm a goof a lot. Really, I have people that are very honest with me, that are not afraid to tell me what's real. I personally journal. I find that if I'm having a disconnect in how I'm being in my life, if I journal, I tend to work through it a lot. So that's been a real help for me. And you know what? This is just a journey. You know, this is not the end of the world. We're blessed to be in this real estate business. I mean, the real heroes are the people that are the frontline people. They're the ones that are stressed. They're the ones that are doing it. I'm a broker. You're a broker. You're, an owner of a big company, but this is not life-threatening. This is we're doing the best we can, and there are other people that are really need our help and stuff like that. So I really put it in perspective every day, every morning. Journaling to me is big.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm very involved in charitable foundations. I sit on 3 boards. I'm the chair of one. I think giving is a big part of it. I'm grateful all the time. Kenny's made a comment before, and we've shared this conversation in private, but you don't own anything. You rent it for a while. And, that really gives you great calm. I'm not hung up on, just not hung up on, I think if you're not hung up on like big cars and crazy watches and all that stupid stuff, get real calm in your life. It's just, it's what are your priorities? I have my three buzzwords through all this thing that resonate with me time and time again. And that's, compassion, calm, and be a human first. And, there's a lot of people that are struggling right now, man. There's a lot of people, heck, they're looking to line up at food banks. We just, Integra just gave a bunch of money to a food bank recently. And, we saw that as a real need. And, I'm involved with foundations that raise a lot. One of the most honestly rewarding things I've done outside of Remax is the three foundations that I sit on. And as I say, chair one, I sit on another one. We help with David Foster Foundation. We help with transplants. MLSC Foundation, I sit on there. We help with, community things with court, basketball, and rink refurbishing and activities. You know what? Get out there. The positive attitude comes, a lot of it comes from being grateful for what you got. If you just take a moment and stop, and we celebrate the things like, our children, our friends, where we live, the fact that the professions that we have, the choice. We have choice every day. This is amazing. The amazing choice we have every day of just stuff and the things we pick. If anything, this has taught you, I don't know about you guys, but I've been dressed on these Zoom calls I got a pair of jeans underneath here. Trust me, not my pajamas. But I got a closet full of suits upstairs. I must have a dozen suits in my bedroom in the closet. I haven't worn one for 8 weeks. And so I'm going like, really? So it's causing me to rethink some stuff. I'm not buying a suit this year. I guarantee it. So, so that's all.
I think we have to be. I think that really. I don't want to be too simplistic about it because we all have problems. Our life is always, there's a crisis, mini crisis every day in the business we're doing and in life. And that's what it is. And just deal with it. And it's not easy sometimes. I know.
You know what, Ken, it's interesting. When I get up, I'm just getting noticed here. Christopher Alexander's wife had a baby.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
oh, my God.
And he's teasing me. He shows me a picture of it here. And
oh, my God.
He said he was going to name it after me. Is that right, Chris?
And wife had a baby. So, I can't tell from the canister. Just had a baby. Yeah, you know what? Sorry. Look, it's we're blessed to live where we do. It's yes, there are things in crisis we deal with. Part of the thing about being a leader is I get up in the morning and I accept the fact that when I sit in that chair, I have to problem solve.
Yeah.
And if I don't want to problem solve, then get out of the chair. It's as simple as that. If I don't want to problem solve, like this isn't about having lattes and little croissants and hanging out. This is being a leader, being a CEO, being a company president is about a full engagement job. This is full engagement.
Well, it's stepping up, isn't it?
You're right. And if you don't want to have that engagement, then go tend to your garden, go grow tulips, go on bird watching, whatever you want, right? So,
David, boy or girl?
Well, I'm trying to get that answer right now, but
okay.
So I just they're teasing me. They're showing me pictures.
Linda Miller wants to know boy or girl. We don't know Linda yet. It's funny. This morning I text Chris. I said I was thinking about you. Do you have the baby yet or not? And he said no. I said maybe I should text this baby and just say, come on, you were supposed to be a few days ago.
Yeah, sign the offer. Come on.
Sign the offer. Chris, on behalf of all of us in Remax Hallmark, congrats. And you know what? You guys have been amazing. Thank you. I personally look on YouTube. You guys have been an inspirational leaders in the industry. And you know what, Shani, if really help you in terms of being positive, one of the things that I do on a daily basis, Ken touched on it. So pick up the phone, talk to somebody that you are comfortable. And, I've talked to Walter, I've talked to Ken, I talked to Kenny, God knows how many times. My lovely wife says, oh, I know you're in love with Ken more than me, but that's fine. Wally, I haven't fallen in love yet, but I have bothered him multiple times and he's always been generous responding to my call and text.
You make a great point, Steve. We all need to have that circle of support, right?
Yeah.
And we all have that, and we have those souls in our lives that we can open our hearts to. And that we care, right? And you need to find those people, because there's no shame in not having someone that says, you know, I'm having a shitty day, and
Yeah.
and there's no shame in that. There's just no shame
Yeah.
in that.
Walter,
And
remember what you told me years ago, to find a sanctuary,
yeah,
right?
that's right.
And that's changed my life.
Yeah.
Have a place that's your sanctuary, that's you and your
Yeah.
thoughts.
Well,
And you have to find
your
that.
place in Prince Edward, mine's up in Skulker, right? And
I know.
I go there, and it's just a place that I don't hide. It's just a place where my soul gets healed, right? And
Yeah, I agree.
a leader without soul is not a leader. Remember that. A leader without soul is not a leader. He's just a mechanic. He or she is a mechanic.
Gentlemen,
Technician.
Gentlemen, we are right on the time at 12, 1 hour. I thank you again. We had over 250 audience. I'll wait a few more minutes if there's any question. I don't see any other question, but thank you. You know, if you want to end it with any thing that you feel that you need to share, it's all yours.
I'm, you know what? I'm blessed. I'm grateful. I'm doing what I love. And I think if I can talk to agents out there, is really just make a difference to the people you work with. Be a problem solver. Don't be afraid. Get out of your way.
Yeah, I agree. Stay safe and healthy. You can take care of the rest. That's it. You take care of the rest. The rest it's easy.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Have a wonderful day. Okay. Talk to you.